Welcome to Silica. When I saw the video published on the Steam, I'm so interested in this FPS plus RTS mode game. However, the most unbelievable thing is such a polished and well-conceptual game is created by one developer, Martin Dram Melichárek. Today, I have the greatest honor to have this chat with him to talk about himself, his game career, and the game.
Or you can hunt them down as the insect-like aliens native to Baltarus.
That's my actually my personal experience that when I first time to play the Silica, I saw, oh, wow, this is a real war. I'm in the middle of the real war. It's like everything is flying, then the bullet, the laser. That's that's a shock for me to experience a real war in the video game actually. And also actually I personally go through all the reviews on the Steam and Discord. Actually, some comments have mentioned that this game is quite similar to StarCraft and Warcraft. What are your thoughts on this?
Very good, like question question in fact. So like my main inspirations for the game were Dune 2, StarCraft, and Natural Selection 2, right? I mentioned Natural Selection 2, that's a game from 2012. It's still like playable today, and it looks nice. I love it. I still love it, but it's all indoors, right? And that is also an RTS FPS game, right? Where there's one commander and the rest of the players are FPS players, and it's also humans versus aliens. Of course, like the RTS FPS genre, like the mix of them, it goes back to like Battlezone and some other games which like in the past. Yeah, like for this game specifically, my primary inspiration, like, you know, like I said, the concept which I wanted to do was before Natural Selection 2. Yeah. So, and I hadn't played Natural Selection 1, which I think was like from what, 2010 or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember. But when I kind of came up with this concept, it was irrelevant of Natural Selection 2. So, and the primary influence for me was Dune 2. I just absolutely love that. I have it on my phone. It's a DOS game from like 96 or something like that, and I have it on my phone. And I'm going to prove it to you. Here we go. Look. There we go. Come on. Go. Start up. Cool. I'll just load a random game. That one. There you go. Dune 2.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I loved that game. I really loved it. But and I love the unit designs. You know, it kind of like, it really triggered that creative thing like this. You saw these tiny little people and these massive vehicles and structures and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, and then of course, when Dune 2016 came out, the 2021, sorry, the film, you know, I loved that, of course, you know. But yeah, the primary inspirations were Dune 2 and StarCraft. Those two are like StarCraft 1. Those were the primary inspirations for this game. And, you know, and then the kind of like being able to experience it. Like the original concept was meant to be that you do play it as an RTS, but not like a classical RTS. The whole idea was you're meant to kind of like be as the commander, you're meant to be in an actual structure. And if you want, I can send you some of the screenshots from the original concept I had in 2008 afterwards. But in fact, I don't know if there's like some sharing here. Is there? Can I share? Might as well.
I think you can share.
Or I'll try and put some images into the chat, because yeah, it's how would I say, it's yeah, it's just an old concept which I absolutely loved, you know. It's I'll try and put it here if it's possible. Yeah, there we go. Look at that, it works. Fantastic. So I'll just pop those there. These are like from the original concept back in 2008, and you can see that first image which I posted That one is, you can see the building there. That was the original command center. Yeah, there was meant to be a person inside that. And he would have monitors in front of him. That was the idea, that he had monitors and he would actually like look at the monitor and like use it to kind of control units. Yeah. And so when someone came, they would actually be able to go and kill him inside that structure. So I kind of deviated from that original concept a little bit, but that's the like these are the original screenshots from 2008 in the Doom 3 engine. And by the way, those textures, like the textures on some of the screenshots, like of the cliffs and the sand, those are actually made from real photos from Mars. So
Oh.
from
a real photo from Mars?
from the Opportunity rover, from the Mars Opportunity rover.
Oh, see.
Because that was there in 2004.
Is it taken by NASA?
Yes,
see.
but they're public domain images, so anyone can use them for any purpose. But so I use them for textures because I really wanted that kind of feeling of Mars. I love Mars. So.
Okay. On the Steam, actually, according to the reports, there are almost 60 to 70% of gamers that not using English as a major language. Are there any plans to support multiple languages in this game?
Yes, this is most definitely planned. Basically, the idea is to push for that coming up to release, because right now there's a lot of stuff still changing in the UI. You know, for example, the user interface right now is going to drastically change. There's someone like in the community which kind of made these concepts for like a different visual appearance to the game, and I love it so much that I really want to go back and like use that instead. But yeah, I need to like put it in, and plus there's a lot of text and all this kind of stuff which still needs to be like put into the game, and then all of that needs to be localized, you know, into the various languages. So yes, it most definitely will be, including some Asian languages as well.
That's a good plan because for me actually I prefer to use Chinese in the game. Hopefully we can have this.
Yeah, Chinese will be in there as well. The only thing which is when I say localization, I of course mean primarily like text and like, you know, subtitles and all this. As for actual like dubbing, that would be really interesting to do, but currently there's no plan for that.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay,
but it would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yes, would be cool. How about the imbalance? I saw some comments mention that I personally have a similar experience. Humans are much stronger than aliens. A human can destroy anything after 10 minutes game. Is it imbalance in the game or?
Well, the balance. So balancing is a bit of a problem, right? Right now, if you play in single player against the AI and you play as humans, you will easily kill the alien AI because it's not finished. The alien AI, like the alien AI commander, it just builds a very small base. It builds it in the same way as humans would, and that's wrong. They're meant to spread across the map much more. And I just haven't finished that, so that'll present much more of a challenge in the future. But overall, AI, like I'm actually going to be overhauling it within about two to 3 months. I'm going to be like redoing the entire AI. And right now, the AI of the aliens is very dumb. Yeah, it kind of like runs past the humans sometimes and whatnot. It's just because it goes for a certain target and whatnot. So these things will change drastically, and the balance, it kind of this is where it's a bit problematic. It will if you play online. Almost always aliens win. Right, because the people like at the higher level, when the people get really experienced and know how to play the game, the aliens just have such an advantage that they almost always win. However, if you play it with kind of like normal people, which kind of like aren't looking for like the absolute, you know, meta in the thing, it's like if you played StarCraft with normal people and with the absolute pros. If you play with the pros, it's a completely different game. You know, and here it's the same thing. So when you play with the absolute pros, it's the players, yeah, it's just brutal. Like the gameplay, they fill the map with buildings and units. You know, they push the game way beyond what it was designed for. So So there, the aliens always win, almost always win. And I've made some more balancing changes to kind of enable it so that that's not the case. But yeah, like one big balancing change will come once the AIs are more intelligent. So right now it is unbalanced, but it's always kind of been, there's been a shift from balance. Like before, it was aliens would lose most of the time, then they would win most of the time, then they would lose most of the time, then they would win most of the time. Because as I changed things, as I introduced new units, turrets, and all this kind of stuff, because it's still early access, so a lot of the things are still being put into the game. You know, I introduced turrets, and suddenly the aliens would always lose because the humans would build turrets and they just eliminate the aliens. So then I put in alien turrets. Now the alien turrets were really good against the humans, so then they would win. So like doing a 100% kind of like balancing pass will be done like obviously like to kind of like ensure the proper balance between aliens and humans. That will be done in like getting closer to release, right? But otherwise, during that time, of course, I always do a little bit of balancing and so on. So like right now, I'd say it is okay balance, but it really depends. Like if aliens kind of like don't attack early, like relatively early, then the humans do have more powerful weapons, right? But this kind of comes down to it also comes down to like, maybe that's a good thing, right? But one thing which is really missing, and this is one of the crucial points, the game is missing first of all commander abilities. So for example, if you've played Helldivers, Helldivers 2, then you know you can call in like some strikes and this kind of stuff, right? Those are kind of like what I would call like in Silica, those would equate to commander abilities, and I do intend to have that. So the commander should be able to kind of like call in like orbital strike or something like that, right? So that will change a lot of things as well, because the commander will be able to do more things like on the battlefield than just send units. And that will be really crucial for some aliens as well, because they'll be able to, for example, slow down enemy tanks by putting like spikes that come out of the ground or something like that. But most importantly, there's no super weapons right now. And super weapons, that'll make a big difference, because super weapons and certain upgrades, right? So aliens right now, what you see is what you get. But what's meant to happen is aliens are meant to have a cloak structure, which cloaks the buildings and makes them invisible like Predator, right? So that will be an interesting change as well once that's in, because then the aliens can kind of hide their base, and though it'll be easy for the humans to destroy the base, they still have to find where it is, you know. And of course, the super weapons, the aliens are meant to get the largest unit in the game, and it's meant to be the Titan, and that's meant to be, you know how I said this, that like if the harvester is this big, and the building that builds the harvester is this big, then the Titan, relative to that structure, is meant to be about this big. So it's meant to be colossal in size, you know, and it's meant to take like, it's meant to be like you'll only be able to build one, and it would like obviously walk slowly but be super ultra powerful, so it'd be really difficult to take down. And that's kind of like the really late game aliens. So like the way I imagine the aliens playing is they start off early, like having an advantage because they can swarm and be more aggressive and dangerous. But then they kind of dip into like a position where they're outpowered by the human weaponry, right? The rocket launchers and all this kind of stuff. But then they get into the super weapon where they've got this giant unit which can completely destroy a human base and move around, right? So it's kind of that's kind of like where I see it, you know, like balance is going to be a bit of a problem to ensure like towards release, making sure that it's perfectly balanced the whole game. I think it'll always be kind of dependent on the situation as well, you know, because there's different maps, and the maps heavily influence the balance of the game. You know, StarCraft, it's all based on distance. Yeah, the terrain doesn't play much of a role. But here, the terrain plays a massive role. You know, if there's a lot of cliffs and a lot of things, the aliens can hide behind. The infantry, like the human infantry, can hide in that as well. You know, while if it's very open, then, you know, the air units have a big advantage and so on. So this is one thing which is going to be really interesting to kind of like try and get the different maps balanced, if you get what I mean.
Oh, I see. Tell you a fun story. Actually, I played almost hundreds games in the Silica and never use alien to beat the human AI. Just never. Most I use a human never lose. I think never lose, and I feel
That was single player, by the way.
Single play.
Yeah. Because the AI for the aliens is like, especially for the commander alien, it's crap. Yeah, it's going to be completely overhauled.
And I feel that the move speed of the vehicle in the game is quite slow. Is it intention?
It is slower. This is very true. It is the intention to like have the like it's realistic speed, right? For example, I can't increase the speed of the infantry, otherwise it would be too much. It would look really strange, right? And increasing the speed of the vehicles, you know, a tank kind of should have a certain speed. But I will, of course, still be looking into like increasing the speed to a small degree. But rather than like increasing speeds of the vehicles, because the maps are like there's Rift Basin, which is 3 by 3 kilometers, and then the rest are 6 by 6 kilometers. They're massive, right? And the intention I actually have is to make more smaller maps that are, for example, 1 kilometer across. You know, so those will be much more action oriented, and the vehicle speeds there, that's not going to be a problem. You know what I mean? So for the people that want more action oriented gameplay, the smaller maps are the way to go. Because the reality is the 6 by 6 kilometer maps, the people just get lost in them. You know, it can be a lot of fun when you're playing a really competitive match because you have a lot of space to maneuver and do a lot of things. But you know, for someone who just wants to like, you know, who has, let's say, 1 or 2 hours to play, you know, and they want to play a couple of matches and much more intense, then yeah, the large maps are not the way to go. So that's why I want to make more small maps where people can easily like just have like, you know, they start the match and almost really quickly get into combat and you know, it stays really intense the whole way, you know, and that's what I want to kind of like direct towards.
But the small map will be benefit for the aliens, right? Isn't?
Not really. It would be beneficial for the aliens to a degree, but one thing that's currently missing in the game is the fast travel for aliens, right? Humans kind of have the hover bike, and they also have the teleportation, but the aliens just have to run or fly, right? But what's missing there is there's meant to be a natural node system on the planet, like as part of like the lore, right, of the game. There's meant to be like these underground, like, or these surface like little nodes which the aliens can get into and move quickly to the next node, like this underground kind of creature. Like this underground, like these tunnels, right? These biotic tunnels, which they can utilize to quickly move across the map. And this is really missing in the game, right? And this should like, and I'll have to make it so the AI can use it as well. So if you send a large group of crabs, for example, to attack the enemy, they'll use these nodes to kind of like quickly move towards the enemy. So that's one thing which is really missing, and it will increase the gameplay speed quite a bit as well for the aliens.
Oh, I see. Okay. Then talk about the future. What are the future milestone or in-game features? Can leak something big things to us?
Yes. So one of the things which I wanted to already have it was meant for Q1, and we're now in Q2, is there's meant to be control points. So have you played Company of Heroes?
No.
Okay. Well, if you know Battlefield, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and you know how you kind of there's these points which you have to fight over and take, and then you kind of like move towards the enemy.
Yes.
Yeah, like these regions. Well, this is what I want to do here, right? Right now, it's kind of like just base versus base, right? And the enemy, like the two sides, they meet, you know, either at the enemy base or they meet at some resources or just kind of like a bit randomly. Well, what I want to do is actually have like territorial control. So the map will be divided to territories, like these regions, and there'll be like central points to take over that region. And so those will be points you have to go and capture, right? To kind of like claim. And this is what I want to add to the game, because it'll mean that there's going to be much more smaller encounters of like, you know, two people, like two sides fighting over the 1 point, over like these choke points and whatnot. And that'll be a big change, because first of all, it'll be much more, it gives much more for the player to do, right? Because right now, people complain about the speed of the vehicles, mainly because they go from one base to another base. That's all they do, right? Whereas if you have these control points, then it's going to be a lot about pushing those control points, and the distances won't be that problematic because your target isn't 3 kilometers away; it's 500 meters away. So it's the speed won't be that much of a problem, and that will drastically change the gameplay, in my opinion. So that's one thing, and of course, like respawn mechanics and all this kind of other stuff. But this is one major change which is coming, which is going to, I think, greatly change the way the game is played.
Oh, okay. Then when can we expect the first official version rather than early access?
Oh, first like version 1.0. So originally the plan was to go for November this year, roughly speaking, like Q4. But realistically, I don't think that's going to happen. Just based on because I would rather push the game back, like the release back, to make sure it's a polished product, like a polished game, rather than just release it early and it's not perfect, if you get what I mean. So it's probably going to be sometime next year, most likely.